I have reviewed more resumes than I can count, and the same mistakes tend to show up over and over again, not because people aren't smart or they're not qualified, but because nobody ever tells them what's actually wrong. Well, folks, today is the day I am changing that. We are going to review 3 resume mistakes that I constantly see as a recruiter and how to fix them. If we haven't met yet, hi, my name is Kim. I am a big tech recruiter and career advancement expert. I help job seekers like you understand how hiring actually works, reduce the confusion, and land higher paying jobs. So I'm glad you're here. Here's the thing we don't talk about enough in regards to job search: the person who gets the job is not necessarily the most qualified. The person who gets the job is the one who is best able to communicate their ability to solve the problems that team is currently experiencing. And your resume is your first shot at communicating that. So today we're going to talk about the 3 mistakes in resumes that I consistently see as a talent acquisition professional and the easy fixes that you can make to make sure that you're not making those mistakes anymore. So let's get to it. Mistake number 1: the resume is either too busy or too sparse. Now, there's a lot of statistics out there that say recruiters only read a resume for 6 or 7 seconds, or you got to get past this AI bot. There are hundreds of applicant tracking systems and so many different ways for recruiters to manage their desk. I wouldn't want to pretend like I know the details of every single process because that's impossible. But what I can tell you consistently is that resumes, if they fall in either the too busy or the too sparse, you are not adequately communicating your value. So, what does a resume that's too busy, what does that look like? Well, it looks like just a wall of text, big structured paragraph narratives that it would take a really long time for a recruiter to read through and metabolize. Remember, most online job applications receive hundreds of applicants. So if a recruiter is not able to easily scan the resume, you're doing yourself a disservice. Keep in mind that you don't want your resume to be too busy and filled with unnecessary information. I want to throw in a caveat. We today are talking about general resumes, but there are structural differences and expectations for both CVs and government resumes with the United States government. I can't speak to federal resumes in other countries because I reside in the United States. So, if you are building out a CV or a United States federal resume, this advice is not useful to you. But everybody else, if your resume is too busy, there's too much information for a recruiter to be able to siphon through. On the flip side of that, if your resume is too sparse, it's like the other part of Goldilocks. Like the porridge is too hot, but it's also too cold. You need it to be just right. If there's not enough information, but we have all of these applicants, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're not completing the story. So, what is the fix? You want this resume to be easy to read, just like any document. A resume is just like reading any piece of paper that someone were to hand to you. Information that's important is at the top, and the eye naturally goes to the upper left hand corner. So, fill out the top with your necessary information and make it easy to read with the most relevant experience near the top. so that as a recruiter, my eye naturally goes to the things you're trying to showcase for us. You also want to make sure that you have clear and distinct sections with headlines or titles. So, relevant accomplishment section, education, licensure and certification, miscellaneous experience. So, it's easy for a recruiter to understand what they're reading, especially if this is a multi page document. Mistake number 2, confusing formatting and inconsistencies. This next point might seem so small, but I see this almost once a week in the applicants that I receive currently, and that is inaccurate indentations. Let's say that you have been promoted at your most recent employer up from coordinator to specialist to lead to people manager without an indentation. That can look like you've had 4 different employers instead of 4 different titles at that same employer. That might seem like a small thing, but you want to show your career growth. And if it's at that same employer, that's important for the recruiter to know. The other piece is if information is missing or unclear or inconsistent, I, as a recruiter, will confirm by looking at someone's LinkedIn profile. And if that information on the LinkedIn is not consistent with what I see in the resume, that is a red flag, especially if it's drastically different. Which version of this person's work experience am I supposed to believe? So it's in your best interest to maintain continuity and consistency across your platforms and within your documents. And you can easily accomplish that by just cross referencing and maintaining appropriate indentations. The third mistake is probably the biggest one, and those are resumes that only show skills and forget to communicate the value. So, Kim, what does that mean? Skills are what you did, and the value is the return on investment of what you did. Here's an example. Let's say that you are working for a company like Ticketmaster, and they have decided to expand into the Asian market, and they're targeting, let's just say Singapore, just to pick a place. This could be any place, right? And you are responsible for building out this backend code to support this online ticketing platform for the Singaporean market for this company. And the anticipated traffic for this platform is 200,000 transactions per second. This is very different than someone who works at maybe more of like a contract or consulting opportunity where the platforms that they build are for small companies and it's really for more like 5 or 50 users for the platform as opposed to transactions per second. That's very different scope and scale of work. Both are valuable though, and different employers will have different needs. So maybe another small company might see that scope of work as attractive to them, and that candidate will go through. Versus someone who works with higher volume of transactions per second, both work experiences are valid and there's a market for either one. The difference, though, is the needs of the employer. And that's where communicating value makes you stand out because the recruiter, once again, doesn't have to guess. You are telling us from the beginning. So let's go a little rogue here and Pull out your resume right now. Let's be honest. Does that read like a skill or value? Replace those task bullet points with value. And I'm telling you, you will have a stronger resume. This is how you stand out in a very crowded marketplace. This is how you get your resume real estate to work for you. So save this video. You know you're going to want to revisit it when it's time to revise your resume or forward it to someone who you know is currently looking for work. Lastly, give this account a follow. I post videos about resumes and job search advice, and I would just love to see you here again. So thank you so much for watching. Can't wait to see you next time. Bye bye, and happy job hunting.